Welcome everyone. My name is David. I'm a behavioral scientist at Griffith University and will share some of our latest work with you today about how we can promote plant-based food in different food service settings. And I thought I'd start by sharing some fantastic news. Just based on, I don't know if some of you have the impression that in the restaurants, the movement is going a little bit backwards. I read some concerns in the Facebook groups that, the vegan restaurants are closing down. You see less and less options on menus. But today I want to give you a little bit of hope. On Wednesday last week, we got a major grant from the Australian government, which is all about promoting plant-based foods in the Australian food service sector, which has been in the making for the last 5 years. And you can see some of the partners are Compass Group. Do you guys know who Compass Group is? I didn't until very recently. It's the largest food service provider in the world. So if you work at mining sites, if you have a hospital, if you go to the Australian Open, if you go to the Olympics, everywhere where there's food being served, it's most likely that the food comes from Compass Group. And they have pretty strong, very ambitious environmental goals, which includes a shift to plant-dominant dishes. So they are the key partner of the project. The other one is V2, that you just enjoyed during the lunch break. It's Australia's leading plant-based meat manufacturer. And Food Frontier, which is the advocacy body for alternative proteins in Australia and New Zealand. And myself and our team at Griffith and UQ basically came together and said to the Australian government that we really want to decarbonize the food service industry. You need to give us money to figure out how we can get people to choose more plant-based options when dining out. That's kind of the context. And this is kind of my personal vision that I have injected within this project. It comes from my personal values, and it's all about reducing suffering and kind of making sure that future generations have a place to live. It's kind of the underlying mission of our project. And today I want to talk about two main points, because when we look at the food service sector, there are two key stakeholder groups. One is the consumers. How do we get consumers to order plant-based dishes? But obviously they can only do this if chefs offer them. So today I will share some of our work that we have done around those two areas. I don't know, maybe from your personal experience or from talking to your family and friends, you may have heard about some of the key reasons why it's so hard for people to order plant-based dishes when dining out. I want to just give a quick recap on what they are. First one is, eating with meat is just nice. It's very delicious. It's just the main barrier that we face to transition consumers to more plant-based dishes. In their heads, there's the steak. When they think about plant-based dishes, it's what the cows eat. This the comments that I often get. Eating meat is normal. We heard about this in the previous session about the whaling in the islands. In most developed countries, eating meat is the cultural and social norm. So it's very hard to break through it. And I don't know if you had this. I'm German, as you can probably hear on my accent. When I go out with my friends and I would order a plant-based dish and not a beer that comes actually on top of it, they would ask me what type of German are you. So it takes a little bit of security in your own values to stand up and say, you can make fun of me, but this is my choice. So this obviously takes a little bit perseverance to go against the norm. There's still this very strong belief across all demographics that eating meat is necessary to be healthy, especially the protein myth that we are trying to debunk for many, many years. It's particularly challenging for us in mining camps and at defense sites, where we have a demographic which is predominantly male, very young male, who just think about their diet as protein. And eating meat is natural, similar with whaling. It's what people have been doing for a very, very long time. So those are kind of the key barriers that we are facing. And then when it comes to how people make choices in restaurants, we did a study where we wanted to find out what are the most dominant strategies that people use. And the first one you can see is habit and familiarity, which is not surprising because when we're in a dining out environment, we obviously have to put money on the table, and we don't want to have the risk of ordering something unfamiliar that we may not enjoy. So therefore, most people will opt for the familiar meat dish. So the meat ordering habit is one of the key things that we're trying to break. So how do we break the meat ordering habit? And a couple of years ago, I got very fascinated about plant-based meat because I thought, oh, maybe they can actually play a good role in the food service setting to overcome the the perception that plant-based options are not tasty and that they fear that they may not enjoy them because they obviously mimic traditional animal meat dishes in taste, texture, and so on. So we did a study and asked people why they don't order those dishes. And you take a guess. So this is kind of, the percentage that people that we surveyed said this is a reason why I don't order a plant-based meat dish when dining out.
It's processed.
It's processed, yeah.
Got chemicals in.
Chemicals in it, yeah. What else?
Soy.
Soy.
It wouldn't be filling enough.
Wouldn't be filling enough, yeah.
Not nutritious enough.
Not nutritious enough, yeah.
One tastes good.
Won't taste good.
I'm not a vegetarian, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. You cover most of them. So we gave them, I think in total we gave them 32 reasons. So top one is they just love the taste of animal meat. They worry that they will not enjoy the plant-based meat dish, which goes back to this perceived risk. Like restaurant environments is a highly risky situation for people. But then there are also some that you mentioned. They don't know what they're made of. They think of them as highly processed Frankenstein food. Like soy is still 1 in 5 people said soy. The man boobs and all those things. It's still a barrier, so we're still working on it. But yeah, so the love of the taste and the fear of not enjoying the dish are some of the key drivers. Then we looked a little bit into different segments. So we wanted to know are there distinct barriers among different consumer groups that I will introduce you now to. The first one didn't really have any issues. Maybe some of you may actually identify with this type of person that had the highest share of people who would follow a vegan diet. But there's mostly the taste, and they would just opt for another plant-based dish, which we are always very happy with. So we don't really care about this segment a lot because they are already choosing plant-based dishes. Second one, we also don't really care too much. Main dish, how I define them. The first one is the junk food vegan, who basically doesn't care too much about their own health, but cares a lot about animal health and therefore goes for plant-based options. The main difference to segment 2 is that it's the person who deeply cares about their own fitness and well-being, and therefore would also order for a traditional plant-based dish. So now it gets to segments that are very interesting to us. Segment 3, as you can see, is sitting on the fence. And mentioned something about sampling, so it goes back to the risk of not enjoying the dish. So we keep this in mind when we move forward. The people who are on the fence, this particular one, is very worried about the taste. This one is also on the fence, but also has some issues, particularly about the nutritional value. Yeah, so nutritional value, again, what you guys mentioned earlier, the perception that those products are highly processed has a lot of nutritional value. This is a key barrier for this particular segment. Segment number 5 now gets more tricky to convince those people where they have a stronger meat identity. Yeah? So a lot of people think of themselves as meat eaters and it's part of their identity. And as soon as they strongly identify as meat eaters, it becomes very difficult to entice them to order plant-based dishes. And then this one I think it's just no chance. Yeah? So we put it in the too hard basket for now. Yeah, so that's a tricky one. So we focus in our work predominantly on section 3 and 4. Yeah? So those are our target audiences with everything that we do. And now I share some of the things that we've been working on, or that other people around the world have been working on that tend to work. And that's kind of the overall goal of, I think, how we have to change the food system. That it has to be the tasty choice, so people must enjoy it. It has to be the convenient choice. It has to be the budget-friendly choice, obviously the healthy choice. And people shouldn't feel bad about ordering those dishes because they may feel excluded by their peers. So that's kind of our tagline.
So nothing in there about nutrition, you see?
You're right, it should be a healthy somewhere. Yes, it should be the healthy choice. Thanks for picking that up. First, some mythbusters that become very clear. Initially, a lot of people started focusing on labeling or just providing information on, for example, the carbon footprint or even health labels. But now, over the last years, we have realized that just providing information is just not enough to change people's food choices. The second one is just leveraging social norms is also not enough. Yeah, so this one, we've noticed customers are starting to choose more meatless dishes, or we've seen more and more people ordering those dishes. But the literature suggests that even those types of messages are not enough to overall get people to order more plant-based dishes. And here's a question for you. This is kind of how a lot of menus are structured. Yeah? So we have different sections, the beef section, the chicken section, and the vegan vegetarian section. Most of the menus are designed in that way. And why do you think this type of menu does not help to get meat eaters to order plant-based dishes?
They're boring descriptions compared to the others.
Yes, they're boring descriptions.
I think they see that section as not about them. They don't even look in that section because they're like, oh, I'm not a vegan or vegetarian, so I'm not going to even look there.
Yeah.
Focusing on what's lacking, chicken breast,
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Chicken rice. Yeah.
meat rice.
Yeah. Anything else?
Feels like a cop out.
What do you mean with that?
Like this, there's all these good stuff, and then there's this one for you guys.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
There's some descriptors under the Wagyu. You've got prime,
Yeah.
under sirloin you've got char grilled,
Yeah.
and the vegan this is whatever.
Yeah.
It's like salad there, the mixed salad leaves there.
Yeah.
Yeah, or no grilled artisan Turkish bread, which I
Yeah.
like, oh, that looks cool.
Yeah.
Why can't it have
Sounds
great.
great.
Of those things. The ingredients are maybe not as nice, or they don't sound as nice.
Yes. I think those are actually everything that we had. So we always want to use indulgent words, so similar as we have here. This one you didn't pick up, so we should avoid the words vegan and vegetarian altogether. Yeah? So they have no, in my opinion, they should not be on menus, because vegan vegetarians, we're just a very small percentage, and we can figure out which dishes are vegan and vegetarian. We either ask, or we have groups where we share those insights. But considering that the vast majority is not vegan or vegetarian, and it goes back to the identity of what you said, people with eating identities, they look at this and say, this is not for me, this is for the others. And we did an eye tracking study at a defense site where the menu is shown on a big TV screen, and it has on the left side, it has 4 meat dishes, on the right, top side, the side dishes, and bottom right side, the vegan dish. And with eye tracking, it's basically like glasses, and we can observe where people are looking. And I did this with 50 people, and I think the average time people spend, you can actually take a guess, what's the average time people spend reading the vegan section on the menu?
Second.
2 seconds? 2 seconds?
As soon as they see the word vegan, they're
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah?
What do you think about like DJ next to the menu item?
I would
Yeah,
also
but
not
that-
have it. I probably would also not have it on it.
Yeah, it was false.
So what would you have?
Fully plant-based.
What?
So just
I usually
to answer the question, you were pretty close. I think it was 0.01 second.
That was right.
And it had different reasons. This crowd they go there every day. It's a mess. It's a dining hall where the soldiers eat, so they know the menu. And out of those 30 or 40, I think only 4 people looked at it overall. Like all the others just looked on the left side. And out of those ones, they just looked very briefly. And if we look at the count, I think they serve every day 400. The number of vegan dishes chosen was between 3 and 4. So it's that's the low-hanging fruit is okay. You really have to get rid of the word vegan and vegetarian because that's not if you're in the military, you're a 20-year-old man. Most likely you're not vegan, you definitely have to move them over to the left side and integrate them in the full menu, get rid of the words. And why I don't like the labels overall, because it goes hand in hand with dietary requirements. And then at the moment people think of vegan, vegetarian as a dietary requirement. So if you're not vegan, vegetarian, it's not for you. It's being put in the same basket as gluten-free or I don't know what the other dietary requirements are. So if we want to normalize it, people should not see it as a dietary requirement, and therefore I would suggest not using labels because again, 4% of people will figure it out and may ask just the wedding stuff. Yeah.
What do you think about the vegan menu? So have all of that, have the standard menu with it hidden in there nicely. What do you think of the vegan menu for the scared vegan? Like where someone's going, well, what have they put in there? Have they got anything there? Have they got something in there? Or do you think that's also detracting? Having one available but not necessarily showing it at people.
The fully vegan menu?
Yeah, like from the restaurant, but whatever the vegan dishes are in a separate spot. So you don't need to search through those other bits.
I think the problem is who do we want to serve? If we want to serve the vegans, it's obviously nice.
Yeah.
But no restaurant will survive as we are seeing if we just focus on the vegans.
Yeah.
So if we want to get the people, the non-vegans to order vegan dishes, the vegan menu will even have a bigger problem than just having it in a very separate section. Unless, the only thing we will talk about this in a second, is if we serve the vegan menu as a default, so everybody just gets the vegan menu, and they actually have to ask for a separate menu. Then it can work, but if you offer both, that doesn't work. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that you shouldn't actually advertise anything on the menu as vegan.
I probably would not.
But if you are looking for something vegan, how would you go about that? I feel like it's bad for the vegan community.
Like, how would you do plant-based instead, like an alternative label? Is that?
I think it comes back to the problem that our community is just so small. So restaurants, if I talk to a lot of chefs and they try to have dishes on the menu and people would just not order them. So at the moment we are just, we're really 4%. So if restaurants want to design menus that target the vegans, vegetarians, at the same time I think it would not allow the meat eaters to order those dishes. So if you clearly label them, because, if per night out of 100 people, 4 or 3 are vegans, those people can ask the waiting staff. So maybe you can have a little note on there, ask the waiting staff for if you have any questions, which would make the life obviously a little bit harder for us, but overall, I think it would have some solutions.
Yes, because I think the point of your talk is to say how to get more of the general community to eat vegan food.
Yes.
Not how to better cater for vegans. That's what we get.
Yes.
So we can care because we're all vegans. We can
Yes.
yes. Yeah.
It's not really helping for people who are already trying to get the other people. Yes. Yes, in the back.
What percentage of like the meat eaters eating these plant-based dishes would know that they're plant-based? You know what I mean? Like if they just eat
Yeah.
like a plant-based dish without even realizing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually describe
That's a
it.
big one.
How
Yeah.
would you describe it then? How would you describe it on a menu if it was plant-based? And you didn't really want people to
What's
differentiate. How do you describe the dish?
So, for example, Fable did a fantastic job where they tested different approaches for their shiitake mushrooms at the what's the name of the big?
Lisbon and Grandma's?
No, the other one. 8th Street? 8th Street?
Oh, yeah, the street market.
So there they tested different labels for their shiitake. It was a Mexican place. And they went from everything, vegan mushroom, plant-based mushroom, and they ended up, I think, some kind of indulgent shiitake mushroom. So they just described the ingredient. And that one, outperformed anything else by far. So if you can focus just on the ingredients, I think that would be great. I will show you some examples in a second. Yeah.
So Netherworld has this menu that you're currently implemented as their baseline. Do you have any of the statistics from that by any chance?
No, but they are.
That would be really interesting.
Yes, so
because they do have that baseline of everything being, and then people have to pay extra to add.
yes.
Animals.
Yes, I contacted them many years ago to see if there would be some collaboration opportunity, but it never led to anything. But they are an example that I use quite often. But they are also one of the very few who actually already do it. But yes, what Netherworld does is I would love to see more of.
So that's like what you would say is the right way
Yes.
to do the menu completely.
Yes. This is one of my favorite studies that we just ran because I thought about how can you remind people that they actually care about the environment. So I didn't mention that when we looked at the food choice strategies, on the very bottom was environment. So when people are in the restaurant, they don't think about the environment when they make food choices. They just, even people who may try to eat less meat because of the environment at home, oftentimes in restaurants they go back to eating meat because they are just other priorities. So I thought about what's a nice way to remind people that they actually care about the environment before they make a food choice. And I was inspired. You guys know Grilled, the burger chain. What do you do after you get the?
Yes.
Yeah.
You get a little token that you can then vote for a charity that they will support for the month. And I thought, oh, what about if we do this before the food choice? So the setup is people are in the restaurant, the waiter comes, says, oh, today we will support, you have the choice to vote which charity we are supporting. Here are 3 options, and one of them happens to be an environmental charity. And then on the menu are the labels, the plant-based dishes are labeled as environmentally friendly, to just tell people which are actually environmentally friendly, because people don't know. Yeah? And that worked quite nicely. So we are currently trying to roll this out at some of the Compass sites, because it reminds people, that they actually care about the environment, and then it leads to a just good enough level of cognitive dissonance, the dissonance that people feel when their actions don't align with their values, which is a very fine line, because sometimes if you go too far, it pisses them off, and then they react negatively, and they will say, oh, now I will eat even more meat. So it's a very fine line. This is a campaign that we are running at some of the mining sites starting at the end of June. And it was the same idea. With the miners, it is about reminding them that they care about their health. Yeah, because it's a very hard working environment. It's very one meat, 3 veg kind of cohort. And what we are trying to do now is we created the Wellness Wednesday, which is the whole day about their well-being. So they get fitness activities where they can go, do CrossFit or high rocks or whatever 20-year-old man likes to do these days. So the whole day they are being primed that they care about their well-being, because most of them actually do. It's just in their mind they have to eat protein at night, which is steak or roast. So the goal is, how can we get them to eat not the roast, but a plant-based dish? So the Wellness Wednesday is where we added an extra plant-based dish to the menu, which we call the Wellness Wednesday dish. You can see none of them are labeled plant-based, or there are no labels. The only labels that there will be on is that it's a high protein dish and it's gut healthy. And then we will see if priming them throughout the day will lead to them remembering at night that they care about their well-being. And there's actually wellness once they dish on the menu. And we will see if that breaks the meat eating habit. We did another campaign which was about sampling, because as we learned earlier, the main risk that people perceive is that they don't enjoy the plant-based dish on offer. So what we did, we had kitchen staff. Most of the environments are buffets, all-you-can-eat buffets. So we had kitchen staff handing out plant-based dishes, the plant-based dish that was available at the buffet. When people lined up, they basically handed out samples and said, "Oh, do you want to try this dish?" Again, no mentioning about it being vegetarian or vegan when we handed out the sample. And people really liked it, because people otherwise they would not try it. But they also provided some good feedback in terms of what they didn't like. So this is also kind of an ongoing kind of feedback loop, because now we have some evidence that we can use and tell the chefs, "Hey, would you mind changing the dishes in this type of way?" Increasing curiosity. So this one is the campaign we are doing with V2.
How do we get from this to this? It all starts with a farmer and a healthy crop of legumes. The beans are harvested and crushed into a mixture. We take that mixture through a special process to unlock the nutrition while filtering out the parts we don't need, leaving us with high quality protein. We add fibre from plants like bamboo. It helps keep the patty together and aids in digestion. Then we add oils from plants like sunflowers for that juicy bite. And finally, we add fat from coconuts, which helps the beans sizzle and cook exactly like animal meat. We add a splash of beetroot juice for colour. Now that our mixture is finished, we can shape it into mince, sausages and patties. Next up, your plate.
Just started. So the idea was actually to break this perception that it's highly processed Frankenstein food. Yeah? So that was my main hypothesis, that if we show people this type of video, it will change their perception. It will make them, be less concerned about the unnaturalness of the dish, which then leads to higher choices of the dish. Surprisingly, it didn't work that way, which I still don't really know why. But what it did, thankfully, one of my colleagues said, "Oh, maybe it increases curiosity for the dish rather than changing the perception." And that actually worked. So it went through, it increased curiosity for the dish and then higher take of the dish. So those are kind of the things that we are trying to do with V2, because V2 it's a very tough environment at the moment for them, and especially in the retail and also food service, because I don't, you probably remember around 2020, 2021, there was a big boom in the plant-based meat market. Do you guys like all the plant-based meat dishes options that were available? Yeah? Some. Yeah. There were some that were terrible.
Yeah.
And it was really, I think now it's really coming back to bite the whole sector, because a lot of people tried it, they bought the wrong brand, and they never tried again. So I had a lot of friends where I encouraged them and said, "Oh, there's so many options, go and buy one." They ate one, they called me and said, "Why would you tell me to try this? It tastes like feet." And I asked them, "Which brand did you buy?" And they said XYZ. And I was like, "Oh no, not that one." So now V2 is one of the last ones standing, and they really have to win the trust back of the customers. And I'm even thinking if they, should send out an apology letter on behalf of the industry saying, "Sorry guys, we had some people who just rushed to the market without creating a good product." So this is some of the challenges we are working around with V2. And one of the ways, I'll tell you in a second. The other one is just offering one of the dishes helps to increase uptake. So that's a very promising approach that we can just tell Compass to say, "Look, if you just offer a plant-based meat dish, it will get people to order more of those dishes." So you can see the whites where they just had one particular vegetarian entree on the menu, and you can see most of the people ordered a meat dish, and then they introduced an impossible entree, and even though the other vegetarian dish went a little bit down, overall the uptake was higher. Yeah, so there was more uptake of vegetarian. What was that? 24.2% instead of 16.9%, which helps the argument that just increasing the availability of plant-based dishes helps to get people to order it. And that one we are very excited about is V2 is working on a blended dish, where they blend 50% of animal mince with 50% of their mince, of their plant-based mince, and then they can make burgers or bolognese or whatever with it, and just sell it. And you don't have to tell people that it's a blended mix. So we are trying this not only in mining sites but also in hospitals. So for example, the Children's Hospital in Melbourne, they have a menu, and if children don't select anything from the menu, they get bolognese. Yeah? And I think it's 70% of kids who just get the bolognese because they don't care about choosing a different dish. And there the head chef is pretty keen on promoting plant-based dishes. So if he has a bolognese which actually has 50% of animal mince and 50% of plant-based mince, he obviously reduces the meat consumption by 50% without really doing anything, right? So this is why I'm quite a big fan of the blended approach at the moment, because we lost a lot of trust into the fully plant-based meat. So now, blending it up, and then slowly we can also change the ratio. I think that's a promising approach to get people used to the plant-based meat dishes again. That's the default from Netherworld, what we mentioned earlier. So you get a bean burger by default, and you basically have to tell the waiter if you want a beef burger. Yeah, so I think if we can do this, it's the most successful thing we can do, but it's also a very extreme thing. Huh? So restaurants are very hesitant to go to adopting this approach because it's really extreme. Yeah? And because anything we do, the key thing is that it doesn't impact guest satisfaction. So there can be backlash, obviously, from the customer. All right, now we change gears a little bit to the restaurant chefs. So we did a study with restaurant managers and chefs in Australia, where we first interviewed 38 and then we surveyed another 100 to see what are the main reasons why they don't offer plant-based meat dishes. So we focus on alternative proteins. Can you take guesses actually? Why would a restaurant chef not offer a plant-based meat dish?
They don't know how to cook it.
They don't know how to cook it? Yeah.
No.
Cost? Too expensive? Taste?
Don't know if it'll sell.
Yeah. So all of them. The main one was just no demand. Yeah, people don't ask for it. So whenever you are in a restaurant, it's worthwhile asking to signal there's actually demand for those products. Similar with the consumers, they don't know the ingredients. Think of them as Frankenstein foods. So it's very interesting when we have workshops with chefs and promote plant-based meat, because they mention the same as consumers with the long ingredient list. And it's a fine balance again there with not making them feel uncomfortable, because the truth it's really unfair to compare the labeling of a beef burger with a plant-based meat burger, because the law around what they have to put on the label is just very different. So you've never seen on a beef burger how many antibiotics were fed to the cow and so on. So it's very unfair comparison. And there's just a lot of education that needs to be done also for chefs. Yeah, they don't think of, they don't understand or don't agree with the whole concept of using plants to mimic animal meat. That tastes like a cardboard. It's just too difficult to integrate it into their standard operating procedures because it obviously requires, different fridge spaces, different cooking materials, and so on. It's harmful to the environment. It's too expensive and doesn't make sense from a profitability perspective. And it's just not available. So a lot of people say that their salespeople have never offered it to them. So this is an event that Food Frontier runs. Remember, Food Frontier is the advocacy body for alternative proteins with the Angus Institute, which is a culinary school, which was all about educating existing chefs on how to cook with plant-based meat. So education is the main pathway to get chefs excited about alternative proteins. And they started, it was the first event that has happened in Australia. And we hope to see that also in existing culinary training, they integrate more plant-based cooking. Because at the moment it's just like it's a side note really. If you are trained as a chef in Australia, you're learning on plant-based foods, and particularly plant-based food is very limited. Yes?
Isn't the problem here is you're trying to get chefs to cook plant-based meat, and they should just be cooking meals with plants.
Yeah, no, I think
Because
so.
that's the problem. I mean, you said people thinking of it being franken food. If they just cooked good, tasty plant-based food, there would be half as many problems.
Yeah.
But this obsession with trying to make plants taste like meat, to try and get meat eaters to eat more plants, I think it's like going at it the wrong way.
Yeah, I think it's a stepping stone for some, because remember, a lot of people are worried that they don't like just the traditional vegetable dish. They crave the flavor of meat in a restaurant environment. I think the end goal would be pretty good if we just had, whole food, plant-based diets all over. I think that's the end goal, or should be the end goal, not only, for animal health, but also for our own health. But I think the plant-based meats, or cultivated meats, have a role to play in the transition. Just because people may just fear that, the traditional vegetable dishes don't fill them up, that it's not as indulgent, which are kind of the key things in a restaurant environment. But I agree that chefs also need to be educated on just cooking traditional vegetable dishes, like especially from the Southeast Asian, Indian cuisine. It's obviously possible. Was there another question? Okay.